Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news as Erik ten Hag demands a sale decision with his summer transfer plans descending into another farce. Manchester United, a big update coming in on Victor Osimhen as well. There's also a few red herrings this morning. A lot of people are going with the headline that Erik ten Hag gets ruthless. Erik ten Hag is not getting ruthless. Erik ten Hag is allowing players to go that are out of contract. That's not ruthless. That's a decision you have to make, which is very obvious. And essentially, it's things like Phil Jones is out of contract. Do you want to give him a new one? And Erik ten Hag saying, have I got Pratt tattooed on my forehead? Of course I don't. That's not ruthless. It's logical. He can't get ruthless because he doesn't know who the owners are. He can't get ruthless and say, sell Harry Maguire. He's got no authority to do that because Man United won't do it. So be very careful of this. Oh, flex, look at me, I've got really big muscles. Look at me flexing my muscles. I haven't got big muscles, exactly, like Ten Hag hasn't. He's not getting ruthless. He's got no authority to get ruthless because he doesn't know who's in charge of the football club and he doesn't know who he's going to buy. We'll talk about another goalkeeper that we've been linked to, and we'll also speak about a few other things as well. I also want to talk a little bit later about why, yet again, we can expose this obsession with, I've played the game, FC. Absolute nonsense opinion I saw on Sky last night. I'm thinking of unsubscribing from Sky over the summer, actually, because apart from watching the football, listening to their drivel is just a waste of my money. I could just give it to charity and it would get better use. You know what I'm talking about. Carragher's combined Man City and Man United treble side. There's more, but basically put Grealish in ahead of Giggs. Not only should he be sacked, he should be in prison this morning for life. Jack Grealish ahead of Ryan Giggs in a combined 11. That's sackable. I'm not joking. Does this face look like it's curling up at the end? I'm not the Joker. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. How is that? That is. There's a word for it. It's idiot making, basically. You should not be allowed to say that on a public forum, that Jack Grealish is ahead of Ryan Giggs in a combined 11. That's gone out to impressionable people. There's kids and people with low IQ thinking that's true today. That he should be kicked off TV forever. I think that's the worst thing he's ever done, and obviously he's done some bad stuff, but that's terrible. And it gets worse. We'll talk about that in a minute. That is disgraceful. You can't have banter like that on national TV, Jamie. You've got to be held to that opinion. That's up there with Martinez and being small. It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Anyway, let's get on. I was mortified, Mark. He said that it was based on form for that season, says Rory. Bollocks. Jamie Carragher, you're telling me in 1999, Jamie Carragher was analysing the Man United performances. He was turning the TV off, crying in his back garden. Bullshit. He's got no idea about form in that season. And what was Ryan Giggs doing running around with his top at Villa Park then? Showing off his hairy chest, or had he just scored one of the greatest FA Cup goals ever? Form for that season. Mate, appreciate he's talking out of his arse. It's disgusting that level. You know, there's people on YouTube who make videos like that, and they do it because they know it's going to get interaction. You shouldn't be doing that on mainstream. You know, you're just exposing the fact that ex-players don't have good football knowledge. Disgusting. I'm fuming about it. I'm fuming. But anyway, let's get into the news. I could just do a whole show on that. But anyway, let's get into the news. So let's fly into this. There's a lot going on. There's two things I want to say at the start of the show. They're quite big things. First of all, remember what Fabrizio said on the show last Monday. He said in relation to the Man United sale, sometime between the next 7 and 10 days. Well, 7 days was last night. 10 days will be Friday. So I'm looking at this window of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What Fabrizio said, what a couple of other people have said. We are expecting something in the next few days around the United sale. I don't know what it's going to be. I'm not going to pretend I do. Maybe it'll be Friday night. It always seems to be a Friday. But be prepared over the next few days. Something is coming in relation to the sale of Manchester United. The second thing, and I'm not going to add on that. You can ask some questions about it if you want later in the show. The second thing, we are heading into that window now. Now, I'm always honest with you. I don't really maintain the relationships of the people I speak to over the transfer window because I don't like to bother them during the normal season. And to be honest, they don't really have a lot to say. But once you hit the summer transfer window, it gets very competitive. Journalists have got reputations. They want you to share their stuff. They want to grow over the summer. That's always been the case for years. I was speaking to a very good source last night about the striker situation and saying, you know, the Kane situation worries me. I'd like us to go for Osimhen. What would the third option be? As of now, well, basically last night, as of now, Manchester United are not in the race for Victor Osimhen. As of last night, Man United are not in the race for Victor Osimhen. I asked why. I was told, well, probably because you haven't got an owner and it's a lot of money and the Glazers don't want to get into a bidding war for a player that's going to cost over 100 million. But as of last night, Manchester United only retain interest in Victor Osimhen. And I was told they retain interest in a lot of people. They have got interest in Rasmus Højlund. They've got interest in Evan Ferguson. They've got interest in Ramos. They've got interest in Vlahovic. They've got interest in Harry Kane. But as of last night, we are not actively progressing or looking to progress a deal with Victor Osimhen. However, what I was told is 2 clubs in Europe are. So United at this moment in time, we're not in a race for Victor Osimhen and 2 other clubs are. It's the middle of May. It's the middle of May, folks. Like, I like the idea of Osimhen. I think a lot of us do. But I think we've got to get realistic. And this is what we're talking about, decision time. Erik ten Hag is frustrated. Erik ten Hag is fuming. Erik ten Hag has had a very good season and he cannot plan for next season because he doesn't know what's going on. Some say he's handed a list in. Some say he's handed, you know, information in. I don't like the idea of ten Hag handing a list in. I remember Jose Mourinho doing this. He said, I handed my list in May. I go on holiday and hopefully that I've got them when I come back. And he didn't have them. That was the summer when he finished second and he got fuck all when he came back from holiday. We are in a situation where Erik ten Hag has publicly put it out there that he's frustrated, and it's coming out through numerous sources that he's frustrated. He's not going to hand his notice in, and he's not going to come out and say he hates the Glazers, and he's not going to come out and say that he's panicking because he's got to present the professional manager that he is, and I think he's done a great job. But behind the scenes, and I think in some press conferences it comes out anyway, he's massively frustrated. He doesn't feel like he's been rewarded for what he said in his interview a year ago. In his interview, he said, I will make Marcus Rashford a big player again, and he's done it. In his interview, he said, I will make Manchester United a competitive club again, and he's done it. In his interview, he said, I will win Man United trophies, and he's done it. In 12 months, he's done everything that he said. But what he was told in return is, we will back you and we will make sure that you can be competitive. He sat there over the last few weeks going, well, I've had a better season than Chelsea. I've had a better season than Liverpool. I've had a better season than Villa. I've had a better season than most teams. And most of those teams are already identifying who they want to go and buy. Denzel Dumfries, which is a player that Erik ten Hag wants, is possibly going to Villa now. Like, he can't even go and get people like that because we won't release the funds. So he's in a very, 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 very frustrating position at the moment, whilst also dealing with the fact that Liverpool are coming up hard behind us, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, decision time is needed. It's not just the fans. Ten Hag desperately wants this decision to be done. He's not the only one within the club. There's a lot of people in Manchester United, a lot of good people in Manchester United who desperately want this decision to be made. Some of them know they may lose their jobs, but they'd rather know than not know. What I was told last week by somebody within the club was that, you know, maybe John Murtagh does lose his job. Maybe Richard Arnold loses his job. Maybe the chief scout loses their job. But they want to know now because the summer is the perfect time to go and get another job. If you get sacked as a scout at Manchester United in May, you've got all summer to go and get a job somewhere else. You're a Man United scout. You're still well appreciated. If you don't get sacked till like November or October, the market's a lot smaller. So there's loads of people. It's not just the fans. There's loads of people in United who want this decision to be made, and none more so than Erik ten Hag, because I'll tell you now, that summer transfer window for Manchester United is just this, just a piece of paper at the moment. There's no substance to it. 1990s football is where wingers crossed, not scored, says Umzi. Thank you very much for that. So yes, look, there's lots to get into, but there is a frustration at Manchester United. And on Victor Osimhen, I've got to say, on Victor Osimhen, I don't know how you feel. I'm not as disappointed as I thought I might be about Victor Osimhen, because I never thought we were capable of doing that deal. So when I was talking to this person last night and they were saying there's no as of now, Man United are not in the race for Victor Osimhen, and there's 2 other clubs who are actively trying to get that deal done. I'm like, well, I actually said, do you think Man United can enter the race? And they said, well, you can, but when are you going to enter it if you've not entered it now? There is no, even if you get tomorrow, Al Thani gets announced, he won't get the club for another 5-6 weeks at best. Osimhen will be gone by then. He basically said to me, look, I wouldn't hold out much hope that you're going to even enter the race for Osimhen. And even if you did enter the race, how would you win it? So I think we're at the point with Osimhen where we can just probably write it off. Missed opportunity. As I said, it's a separate story. I don't know who the 2 clubs are, but a few weeks ago I was told Chelsea are going to go absolutely all out to get Osimhen. Todd Boehly's messed up his first year at Chelsea. He's desperate to prove to the fans that he knows what he's on about, wants Poch, and he'll go and get the best striker he can get. Well, Osimhen's probably that. Kane to Wrexham, you heard it here first, says Alex Scott. It's okay, we don't need a backup for Kane, says Robert McCormack. Well, on Harry Kane, the only thing I would say about Harry Kane, and I've got nothing to add to Robert's love fest, but the only thing I would say about Harry Kane is that United are very worried about Harry Kane. And it's been well documented anyway. They're very worried about him, not because of his age, not because of his contract. They're worried about getting him out of Spurs because Harry Kane's already hinted that he's not going to ask for a transfer request, which makes it very difficult for United against a very hard to negotiate team. So we may well end up with Harry Kane, but he probably won't play until September because it will take forever. James Cave says, it's so frustrating as there are many options available this summer. This is the window to back Ten Hag, but he can't work without defined budgets, says James. It's really frustrating. I'm sure everybody shares Eric's frustration. It's appalling, really. The end game might be a good thing. It might be short-term pain for long-term gain. But from Eric's point of view, he's not part of that. He's not part of Man United's history. He hasn't spent the last 10, 15 years wanting the Glazers out. He's only been here for a year. Previous to that, Ajax was his focus. He's only really witnessing and feeling the frustration of being run by the Glazers over the last 12 months. But it isn't right. It's not fair. Last summer, the summer transfer window was a mess because he only came in May and he had to rip up all their plans and tell them what to do, and they didn't get everything he wanted, and some of it didn't happen until the end of August. He still manages to have a good season. He thinks this summer's going to be the big summer because they can prepare for it, and they're actually in a worse position than when he first came in because they can't prep for this summer. So, you know, it's not fair, it's not right, but it's going to be a massive challenge for him, of course. Elliot says, De Gea plays with less confidence without his usual back line, and rightfully so, but people ignore how good he plays when the usuals are in front of him, says Elliot. And Mark, what do you think about cashing in on Sancho to get our targets now that Ahmad's coming back, says Shantanu. I'll tell you what I think about this. Beth actually was on about it yesterday. She was saying she'd like to do a debate between Ahmad and Sancho. And I said, I don't think it works, Beth. I think it'll work maybe next season, but right now there's no debate. You're debating a player that's done well in the Championship against a player who isn't leaving this summer and is a Man United player. And next season for Ahmad and Sancho is where you make that decision. There's no decision to be made now. What if Ahmad can't cut it in the Premier League? What if Sancho becomes brilliant next season? You make the decision to sell Sancho and keep Ahmad. You've made a mistake. Logically, I know people don't like patience and pragmatism, but the obvious thing is that Sancho will not leave and Ahmad will be given a chance. And that next season, in a year's time, we probably do have that debate, but next season, they'll both be given an opportunity, and let's see what happens. Will United wait for a Kane for a year if Livy is a pain, says Ricky? We can't afford to wait for Harry Kane for a year. We need a striker next year. I think if Chelsea... There's a great point made by one of you a couple of weeks ago, and it's absolutely spot on. If Chelsea or Liverpool hadn't flopped this season, we wouldn't be in the top 4. Like, we've done well, but we wouldn't be in the top 4 if it wasn't for Liverpool and Chelsea having dreadful seasons. Like, it's opened up the opportunity for Newcastle and Man United, and we deserve it at the moment, but next season, and if we'd finished 5th or 6th and Chelsea and Liverpool had a good season, we'd be saying we messed up. We needed a striker. The Glazers are pricks. Like, why didn't they get a striker instead of Weghorst? So why did Ronaldo not get replaced? So we can't wait another year. We won't get away with it again. We have to go and buy a striker. Just before I talk about this goalkeeper story, top 4, Liverpool won last night. I'm assuming they're going to get 71 points. That's the way you've got to live. We've got 66. We need 2 wins from 3. We've got Bournemouth away, Chelsea at home, and Fulham at home. We've got to start playing well ahead of that FA Cup final with Man City, and we need 2 wins from 3. I can't see how we don't do that. This FA Cup final with Man City could be a treble decider. We've got to find some form. We've got to find some hunger. I don't see how we don't win the next 2 out of 3. And if we don't win the next 2 out of 3 and we don't finish in the top 4, we don't deserve it and we're bottlers. And I don't think we are that. So, yeah, I hope if Liverpool are going to get top 4, it's going to be Newcastle's spot they take and not ours. And also, I think we've got to, one thing people are not doing, and I've been guilty about this, and I thought about it this morning, and you might find this quite interesting. We're obsessed with Liverpool getting 71 and we need 2 wins to get 72. We don't. What if Newcastle mess up? Newcastle are on 66. If they lose to Brighton on Thursday, they've got Leicester at home, which I think they'll win, 69. But then they've got Chelsea away last game. If they don't win that, they're on 69 or 70. Which means we could draw 2 and win 1. What I'm saying is we need to win 2 and we'll get top 4 no matter what. But we might get top 4 and Liverpool might get top 4. Newcastle could bottle it. But ultimately, we don't need to focus on Liverpool and we don't need to focus on Newcastle. We just need to win 2 of our last 3. And 2 of them at home. And our home record, whatever our away record is fantastic. Obviously, our home record's fantastic because our away one's terrible. So it's in our hands. I'm not worried about it. Bournemouth on Saturday afternoon. If we don't win there, I'll become a little bit more worried. We also need to stop looking at midfielders who are close to 30. We might end up like Liverpool having to replace all at once, says Shantanu. Yeah, we might do. Just moving on. Lots to get into on the show this morning. Obviously, it might not be the best news to hear about OSIMHEN, but, I am starting to speak to these people now about things that are going on, and it won't always be good news. So as of now, we're not in the race for OSIMHEN. There is an interest in OSIMHEN. That's absolutely fine, but we're not in the race for him. 2 other clubs are. And the feeling is that United probably won't even ever enter that race. The reason I spoke to that person was because of Kim Min Jae. What I was told about Kim Min Jae, and there's a lot of people talking about this as well, what I was told about Kim Min Jae is that he is a target for Manchester United. We are a destination that him and his entourage are very interested in. It's highly likely he will leave Serie A. In fact, the feeling is that he will leave. But there is no advanced talks with Manchester United for the same reason Man United are not in advanced talks for Harry Kane, Frimpong or anybody else. Because Manchester United's message at the moment to any player going or coming in is we are not making decisions on signings or letting people go until we know what happens with the sale. And that's the official line. And it's a boring line, but it's a very logical line. Man United are telling agents of both players that they want to sell and they want to keep, or they might sell or they might keep a buy. At this moment in time, we are interested. We're not saying no, but we are not progressing anything. Other clubs are progressing things. Other clubs are speaking to players and saying, we want you, let's move forward, let's speak to the club. Man United can't do that at the moment. Very frustrating, but very true. So with Kim Min Jae, Man United have got a strong interest in Kim Min Jae, and they've retained that for a while. Ever since Ten Hag came in, he really likes him. Kim Min Jae likes the thought of Man United. He probably is going to leave Serie A, but there are other clubs interested. There is that release clause, and the longer United delay on the sale, the more opportunity there is for other clubs to come in. Now, what I was told is Arsenal didn't like missing out on Martinez to Man United last summer, and if there's an opportunity to sneak in and get a player that Man United want this summer, they'll do it. But that sounds a little bit petty and silly to me. But I think Kim Min Jae for Arsenal would be interesting, considering what happened to Saliba. I think also Man City might quite fancy it as well. So that's where we are with that. Just moving away from that a little bit, there are, as I said, a few silly stories coming out this morning that Ten Hag is getting ruthless. United legend Phil Jones will be released on free. This is a good super chat, Luca, because it fits in with what I'm about to talk about. So there's a lot of people this morning reporting that Ten Hag gets ruthless. He doesn't get ruthless. He's not getting ruthless. It's a sensational headline put out there to make you feel buzzy about the summer and spin you around. And the people who are reporting it, who are United fans, need to switch their heads on and realise this is not getting ruthless. This is players being released who are out of contract. That's not ruthless. It's logical. These players don't play. They don't even get in the matchday squad. You're talking about people like Phil Jones. You're talking about people like Axel Tuanzebe. You're talking about sending Sabitzer back to Bayern on loan when he's been on loan, or Weghorst back to Besiktas or Burnley, or Butland back to Palace. That's not ruthless. It's an easy decision that has to be made. There's nothing ruthless about it. Phil Jones has hardly played in the last few years. Are we going to give him a new contract? Of course we're not. Of course we're not. It's like jumping into a swimming pool with piranha in it. You're not going to do it. It's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. Are you going to give Axel Tuanzebe a new contract? He's out of contract. Of course you're not. That's not being ruthless. It's a decision that anybody would make. But it's being wrapped up and presented that, Ten Hag gets ruthless early. It's not. It's spin. Ruthless would be Scott McTominay, you're on the transfer market. Fred, you're on the transfer market. Brandon Williams, you're on the transfer market. Harry Maguire on the transfer market. Victor Lindelof. I'm not saying that all those players should. I'm just saying that would be ruthless. He can't do that. He's got no power to do that. Because the line is, it might happen, but until we've done the sale, we don't know. So whoever you think should be sold, maybe Ten Hag agrees with you, but it's part of the frustration. He can't get moving on players in, and he can't get moving on players out. And the longer this takes, the more difficult it is. Because imagine this has not been resolved by the middle or back end of June, and Harry Maguire comes back from his holiday and he's on the plane to America. He's probably here for another year. Because how do you start moving on these deals when you're into pre-season? It's not just buying players. Selling players is going to be a big problem. Dean Henderson is another one. Brandon Williams we've mentioned. Maybe Fred or a McTominay or whoever else. And people think we might sell Sancho or Martial. I mean, I just can't see how these players leave when, Ten Hag literally, he can't be ruthless. He can't walk in today and go, Tony, come into my office. I'm putting you on the transfer list. He can't do it because there's no ownership model to allow him to do it at the moment. It's just, it is literally handbrake on until this sale happens. And it needs to happen really quick. Do you think we'll have to resort to a last-minute striker deal if Kane deal doesn't go through, says Jordan? I think Man United are quite logically and openly worried about Harry Kane because it will take time. Hi, Mark. What do you think about Martinez getting a wage increase 3 times what he's earning right now, says Fabian? I think he deserves it. But again, from a business point of view, does it make sense for the club? Oliver, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much for gifting a membership as well. He's been a member for 8 months. Cheers, Oliver. You're a legend there. I don't know what Martinez's current wage is, so I don't know whether we should be giving him 3 times that. But, Man United handing out stupid wages shocks me as much as waking up on Christmas morning and there's no snow. It's not a surprise to me. It's one of the many things that needs to change under new ownership. But, I like Martinez. I do like Martinez, but I like Anthony, but he shouldn't be on 200 grand a week. Not at all. Mark, I think the Glazers won't decide till the end of the season. Do you think top 4 will be a factor whether they stay or sell, says Khalil? I hope not. I mean, you might be right, but I hope not. I don't want to be, thinking that if we get top 4, the Glazers might stay, but if we get Europa League, they might go, because you know what I'll say. Bring on Thursday night football. I would take another year in the Europa to get rid of the Glazers. I mean, we're talking about 18 years of, sabotage. I can take another Thursday night football season to get rid of them. But obviously, I don't want that to happen. I've got a bad feeling the Glazers are waiting until we get Champions League football to announce Sir Jim, says Dazzo. Well, look, the way the club's been run in recent years, we know that's what they do. They wait for something positive and then they throw in a negative. How many times when we used to get beat, the next day we'd be signing Ronaldo or Gareth Bale. It's all good putting players up for sale. You have to sell them first. Having a clear out is certain, but said similar over the last 2 seasons, says Slow Sports News. All I know is that Man United's summer transfer plans at the moment are handbraked. It's really difficult. John O'Connell says David Raya to Spurs. I think David Raya to Spurs is really logical. I think it's got a Spurs deal written all over it. I can see him in a Spurs kit. I mean, that's a good move for him from Brentford. I don't think David Raya's coming anywhere near Man United. I never have. One goalkeeper that might be, and I'm going to get his name completely wrong. Is it Kobel from Dortmund? We were linked to him a few months ago. We've been linked to him again in the last 24 hours. He'd be a very interesting profile of goalkeeper because he's well respected in the European scene. Dortmund do have that stereotypical and deserved status as being a team that likes to play football. So there'll be a lot of people that quite like this goalkeeper, and we have been linked to him 2 times now. I don't watch Bundesliga football anymore, and I really don't. So I'm not going to pretend that there's no deep analysis coming in here from me. Where I sit on the goalkeeper situation. I personally don't think we should be changing a goalkeeper that's got, the golden glove for clean sheets, only conceded 8 goals at Old Trafford, and is still a wonderful shot stopper. People say, well, look at the goals that we've conceded this year, and he's been at fault for a few. But I would say, can I have a look at the compilation of saves that he's made that other goalkeepers wouldn't make? So, look, I know it's divisive. Well done for having your opinion if you want De Gea to go. I don't want him to go. Respect. That's how it goes. But if we are, I agree with what Ben Foster said on the show yesterday. If we were going to replace David De Gea, you would have to go and get a Costa from Portugal. You would have to go and get that level of a goalkeeper, because you're replacing, whatever people think about De Gea, whether they've run out of patience or not, you're replacing an iconic goalkeeper with a huge influence in the dressing room. And I don't think people understand what the Man United dressing room's like. Fortunately, I know people who know, and I know what that dressing room is like through them. And David De Gea is a massive influence on that dressing room, whether you like it or not. Obviously, people like Bruno are, Casemiro is, Rafael Varane is, but David De Gea is a big influence in that team. And if you're going, whether you like it or not, if you're going to replace him, all I'm saying is, even if you want to replace him, you don't replace him with some up-and-coming goalkeeper. You don't replace him with some maybe. You've got to go out there and buy the best. And I think that, I've got a lot of respect for people who highlight Costa from Portugal. I think it's a risk, but I think he's a very, very good goalkeeper. Are we going to go and do that? Are we going to go and do that this summer? Well, listen to the last 20 minutes of this show and you'll find your answer. We're not buying a goalkeeper for that amount of money. I mean, we're already out the Victor Osimhen race and we want him. So we're not in a position to be doing that sort of thing. So maybe we will end up with the Dortmund goalkeeper. Maybe we'll end up with that Anderlecht goalkeeper. I think, maybe we'll end up keeping Dean Henderson, which for me is a terrible idea because it just doesn't work between Dean and Dave. So I don't know what we're going to do, but I think the goalkeeper represents every other problem we've got at the moment. Yesterday, people were arguing about Rabiot, saying he can't be the midfield signing. I don't mind him as him and another, but if he's the midfield signing when Liverpool are buying bloody McAllister and Arsenal are buying Rice and we're getting Rabiot on a free, it's a big indicator of we're struggling. So I think all across the pitch we're struggling, ins and outs. We're just not prepped. I was gobsmacked how good Steele was versus Arsenal, says Robert McCormack. And can't imagine what it will be like if City was crap against Everton, mate. Just remember that. Escape Artist says, I can't imagine what it will be like if City do the treble, but I can take one big positive from Arsenal not winning the league. Piers douchebag Morgan, says Escaped Artist. Piers should just stick to... Well, he specialises in talking nonsense, doesn't he? He's got a degree in that. I mean, whenever he talks about football, he may as well get a custard pie and go... He's, he championed Aubameyang over Arteta. That went well. He championed Ronaldo over Ten Hag. That's gone well. And look, I like Ronaldo. I haven't really got a problem with Aubameyang. But when Piers Morgan starts championing you, you may as well start digging your career grave, because he is the kiss of death. Sometimes I can jinx a result on a Saturday afternoon, but when Piers Morgan starts championing you as a footballer, it's like when Aaron Ramsey scores and a celebrity dies, isn't it? The minute Piers Morgan starts talking about a certain player, you can guarantee their career is going to go down like the Big Dipper, into the shitter. Thoughts on signing Ward-Prowse for squad depth and his set-piece ability, which seems to be something we lack, says Isaac. Well, somebody said to me in the last 48 hours, James Ward-Prowse is Scott McTominay with a good free kick. Now, I thought that was a bit offensive, but I sort of understand where they're coming from. Set piece taking of James Ward-Prowse is brilliant, but I don't think there's a hell of a lot there. I don't think if James Ward-Prowse is at Chelsea, he's getting on their bench. And look, Chelsea are crap this season, but they've got a lot of good players. He doesn't start for Arsenal. He doesn't get on Man City's bench. He might get on Liverpool's bench at the moment. So why are we buying a player? The way I do it now, basically, is I look at a signing and I go, where do they fit in Man City's squad? Where do they fit in Arsenal's squad? Where do they fit in our big rivals' squad? And James Ward-Prowse, for me, he's into his late 20s as well. He's not development. That is not the standard of player we should be going for. You can buy a player from a relegation team, and they can be really good. We did it ourselves with Roy Keane. He got relegated with Forest. We bought him in. What a signing! Lavia's interesting at Southampton. There might be other players that are interesting from other clubs, but for me, James Ward-Prowse, I like him, but not as a Man United player. We should buy Højlund and Ferguson instead of splashing the cash on Kane. Kane equals 100 million plus 400k a week. We need quality and depth, says Ami. What is essential for a goalkeeper today? World-class shot stopping or decent shot stopper, but great on the ball, says Ricky. I still think, and people will disagree with me, I still think the most important thing for a goalkeeper is that they keep clean sheets, because David De Gea's distribution this season has been scrutinised a lot, and yet he's going to win the Golden Glove, and yet we've got one of the best defences in the league. If he could pass like Iniesta, but he was an average shot stopper, maybe we'd be down in 6th. So I still think a goalkeeper's job is to stop goals. I agree the evolvement of the position means you need to be good on your feet. The reason goalkeepers need to be good on their feet, and Van der Sar was the architect of this back in the 90s, was the removal of the back pass rule. The back pass rule was, I grew up with it in the late 80s. You used to be able, the goalkeeper, so basically teams used to time waste. So Liverpool were terrible at it, hated them for it. So what would happen in the modern day is Varane and Martinez would have the ball, they'd pass it to De Gea, a striker would run towards them, he'd pick it up, the striker would go away, Luke Shaw would run over, he'd roll it to Luke Shaw, the winger would run to him, he'd pass it back to De Gea, he'd pick it up. Not being able to pick the ball up and the removal of the back pass rule was brilliant for football, but it also meant that goalkeepers had to use their feet more. And that's where it sort of, Van der Sar came through, Manuel Neuer, many others. I mean, Alisson's been brilliant at it for Liverpool. He's such a good sweeper keeper as well. So you do need it, but I also think you do need, I still think your job is to stop shots. What are your thoughts on selling Fred, McTominay, Donny, Williams and Maguire and bringing in Kim, Ziyech, Zielinski, Ferguson and Casido? I'll have some of that, Elliot. I'll have some of that. I will have some of that. Talking about Prats, I've got to discuss this. You might have seen it last night. I don't know why they did it. Monday Night Football, they did this stupid recency bias that you know what? I don't get angry. I feel appreciative of the intelligence that we have in the community. I'm not shouting myself out here. Some people might say, you haven't got any intelligence. That's fine. It's all about opinion. But what I love about, like, when we do the live shows, or when I'm doing these live shows, or when we're doing the tour shows, is that, there's a lot of people out. You people are very intelligent, and we can interact. When you put something like the mainstream TV on, you are a goldfish, just watching what they give you, and there's no interaction. Last night they did a combined Man United treble winning side with Man City. Now I think that is shit TV, because Man City have not won anything yet and might not win anything. I mean, they're going to win the league, but they've not won anything yet. They might win a treble, but they've not won it yet. And also, Man United won a treble with probably pretty much the same 15 players across a massive season. How the hell can you do a combined 11? It's just disrespectful knobhead TV, isn't it? How can you do a combined 11 with a team that's the greatest Premier League side ever because of what it achieved, and a team that's won nothing yet? You do it at the end of the season for a start. On top of that, Carragher's done it. And I'll tell you what, he may as well have pulled his pants down and done a big shit on the TV, because it's the biggest festering turd fest I've ever seen. I cannot believe he was allowed to do that. And he might pretend he's doing it for banter, but if you want to do banter, go on Have I Got News For You. You don't do it on Monday Night Football, where there's impressionable people who think you're talking the truth. And maybe he thinks he is talking the truth. But apparently he did it on form. well, he's talking nonsense. I and many of you religiously watched every game of Man United in the treble-winning season. It's the best season I've ever witnessed for obvious reasons. The relentlessness, the fight, the passion, the ability. So he's put Kyle Walker at right back ahead of Gary Neville. Look, say what you write about Neville as a person, but as a player, I think he was a really good right back. Definitely better than Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker is a Leyton Orient right back with pace. And his pace gets him out of trouble a lot, but I don't think he's that good. So he's put Kyle Walker ahead of Gary Neville. He's put Jack Grealish ahead of Ryan Giggs. Now, I think Grealish has had a good season, but you're talking about one of the best wingers in Premier League history in Ryan Giggs. I think there's an argument of whether Mahrez or Foden should be playing ahead of Grealish. On form, Grealish has been good this season, but what kind of prat puts Jack Grealish ahead of Ryan Giggs? Even Jack Grealish doesn't put himself ahead of Ryan Giggs. This is on national TV. Stunning. Stunning. And then to top it all off, he puts Gundogan ahead of Paul Scholes. Paul Scholes, one of the most celebrated and appreciated English midfielders of a generation, known by greats in Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Italy, everywhere. Scholes is appreciated as one of the most gifted midfielders in English football history. And Gundogan is ahead of Paul Scholes now. It's just recency, it's not even recency bias. This is why there is this ongoing battle about, look, I know some fans talk shit. I see it myself. And I know there's some good pundits out there who are ex-players. I see it myself. But that sort of stuff, who does that serve? What does that sort of analysis serve? You cannot sit on national TV and do a joke. It's not funny. Or just do it on Kyle Walker over Gary Neville. That's hilarious because Gary's right next to you. Oh, it's so funny. Look at Gary's face. It's over, right? But don't extend the joke because it's not funny and it can't be a joke when you're putting Gundogan ahead of Scholes and Grealish ahead of Giggs. It's terrible. I was like, I can't believe that. That's not, that, to be honest, that just plays into our hands. It plays into your hands that, people who actually watch the game, fans who've been watching the game for years and appreciate the game. I said this before, 5 years ago, there used to be, and I was part of it, there used to be this thing where you'd talk shit to wind up rival fans. And then it evolved. And now, look at that's football with me. I can do a Liverpool-Leicester watch along. It's not even Man United. You can just sit talking about the game, say that's a good pass. Oh, that's terrible. Football fans have many layers, and we're always going to have red-tinted glasses for Man United, but we're not going to start coming out with stuff like Harry Maguire is better than Saliba. That's basically what I felt like Carragher did last night. He basically said Maguire's better than Saliba because he put Grealish ahead of Giggs and Gundogan ahead of Scholes and Walker ahead of Neville. Look, if you want to say that publicly on national TV, then everyone else has got a right to say you're not even talking nonsense. You should be in prison for it. It's ridiculous. I feel sorry for Ten Hag because he's the one who's suffering the most with this whole sale saga. A manager being kept in the dark about the club is bad, says Lee. I agree. Hello, Mark. Can you wish my mate NTO a happy 21st birthday? Says Standout. I don't know how to pronounce it, but happy 21st birthday to NTO. And should we be looking at signing players abroad such as Koku and Højlund, or would you rather we focus on a player who is Premier League proven as a future option, says Donny. The problem we've got, Donny, is, and I understand it, sometimes I fall into the trap as well, and I see a lot of you falling into the trap. Honestly, you shouldn't even be considering anything or thinking that Man United are considering that when they can't consider anything at the moment. Like, as I say, it's fake news that Ten Hag is getting ruthless. He's not getting ruthless. His hands are tied behind his back. It's not ruthless to remove Phil Jones from the club when ultimately you're being asked whether you want him to sign a new contract or not. That's not ruthless. That's just having a brain. Ruthless would be, Anthony Martial, you're up for sale. He can't do that. He can't do it with anybody at the moment. Or, ruthless would be, we're going to go and sign Victor Osimhen. We're not doing that either. I'm still secretly hoping it's Leao, says Fred. He's just signing a new deal at Milan, so it's definitely not Leao. Mark, is he on something? Class of 99 is outstanding. He talks crap. Great show, Mark. Hope the family are well. Take care, says Tracy. Look, you know what? He did put De Bruyne and Haaland as the front two instead of York and Cole. I love York and Cole. I also think Haaland and De Bruyne are pretty good. There is a debate to be had there. Obviously, I'm going to be going red-tinted glasses, but, you know, I'm not blind to the fact that Kevin De Bruyne and Erling Haaland are incredible players, and in a Man United combined 99, you might look at that. Ronnie Jonsson's a bit of a weak one next to Stam. Ronnie Jonsson was fantastic, but, you know, Vidic was better, Rio was better, Pallister was better, you know, Varane is better. Like, Ronnie Jonsson potentially you could look at, but I mean, Kyle Walker for Gary Neville, Grealish for Giggs. He's just shat out the worst opinion of the season 3 times. 3 times. Unbelievable. Mark doesn't know what freedom of speech is. Of course I do. Of course I do. That's exactly what we're doing here. If you put an opinion out there, you better realise that someone might have a different opinion to you. But it doesn't mean you can't say that opinion's shit. I think we do it very well. And also, of course, our community welcomes, you know, if Carragher had the balls to come on and talk about why he's talking nonsense, the door is open, but they won't do it, won't they? Will they? Because they want to be in their little protected human centipede where one eats and then they just all shit out from the same thing. We're worker ants, you know, we do our thing. 1 more hour, Mark. Love this channel, says Simon. Wants me to go for another hour. Look, I know it's all about opinion, but I don't think there's a Man City fan that thinks that Jack Grealish should be in a combined 11 ahead of Ryan Giggs. There will be, because they think it's funny, but I don't know. Look, I don't find that stimulating. I didn't really find it stimulating 5 years ago, where you get into a beef in a football match with DT. I felt it was very staged, and it wasn't staged, but the fallout from it just felt like weird, and I wanted to take a step back from that. And I can't be bothered with this. My club's better than your club, and you know, just who can shout the loudest. It's a bit for me. It's a bit cringe. Like, we're better than that. Football progresses because of better analysis and better conversation, and I think recency bias is something that frustrates the life out of me. But I don't know how you can even compare. I just don't know how you can compare on that. Mark, what does Grealish do well? He looks for fouls. He can't wipe Giggs' boots off. I mean, look, William Turner, you're talking about that season in particular. I mean, look, everyone talks about the goal against Arsenal, but there were other goals from Ryan Giggs that season, like in the Champions League, late on in games. It was, I always get it mixed up. It was Old Trafford. It was either Inter or Juventus late on. I think he got a late equaliser to take it to we were at home in the first leg. It might have been someone in the chat will know. I bloody mind's all over the place this morning. But late equaliser from Giggs. I think it was Juventus at Old Trafford, and then we went to obviously Turin for the semi-final where we turned it around and won. But it might have been Inter, one of the two. It was look, that season was brilliant. Beckham was unbelievable. Giggs was unbelievable. Scholes, Keane, the back four, Cole and York, Sheringham and Solskjaer played their role as well, as we know. It was an amazing team. Amazing team. It was Juventus, yeah. Right. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. We've got a cracking video coming up for you at 2. Got a journalist on at 2 o'clock to talk about Man United, so don't forget to tune in at 2 o'clock for that. 8 o'clock show tonight. I'm normal at 8 o'clock tonight, so thank you very much. It was Juventus, great. The Goldbridge brain is still in gear. Obviously, if anything breaks, we'll go live for you as well. Legends of the chat, thanks everyone for tuning in this morning. Make sure you subscribe. As I said, starting to pick up that phone now, starting to speak to people. So the transfer stuff will start kicking in better. We'll start getting some really good stuff now. As I said, if you tuned in late, OSIMHEN, as of last night, I was told we are not in the race for OSIMHEN. We're interested, but we're not in the race, and this is because of the sale. Min Jae is interested in us. We're interested in him. But our message to anybody, whether we're looking to sell or buy, is we can't do anything until we find out about the sale. So United, handbrake on. Ten Hag, very frustrated. Thanks for watching. I'll speak to you all in a bit.